AskDrParthaNandi. Thank you for joining us today. Love to hear from all of you today on Facebook Live. I know it's been a long day, so I appreciate you guys joining us after a long day wherever you are. We're in beautiful Detroit, Michigan, and it's been a beautiful day. It's been in the 70s and 80s. So again, appreciate you guys joining us and talking about an important subject. So, is your gut making you sick and tired? Is it making you weak? Is it making you fatigued? And really discuss today why that could be happening. Right? You know, I'm biased because I'm a gastroenterologist. To me, the gut is the center of the planet, of the body's planet, and so I think that this is really pretty important to me. But I want to hear from you. Do you think that the gut is your gut is actually making you sick? Because I don't just mean, are you getting bloated, uncomfortable, are you constipated, have diarrhea, but rather, are you actually having other symptoms like being fatigued and not having the energy you need and like not having the motivation? And so, love to talk to you all about that. But let me know if you've experienced this, as so many of my patients have, and what you've done about that. So, awesome. It's lovely to see so many of you joining us. Tell us where you're from. I see Kevin Williams, Simple Reminders in the house. Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Kirsten is with us. Leah Sullivan. Hello from Down Under, from Australia. What is it? 10:46 now, which means that it is 14 hours, right? So that means it is, what is that? So a little past 12:45 in the afternoon, almost 1 p.m. So awesome. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. Kane Finn Hockey Kioloa says, mine is. I can't tell if it's because I'm in the mountains at 5,000 feet or what. I live at sea level. I don't know if the elevation is so important, but it's really important to mention that your gut health can really result in changing everything you do. So here's the skinny. First of all, what is the gut, right? And the gut is your intestinal system, your colon, your small intestine, your stomach, and why is that? Why is that the center of the body's planet, right? So I think that it is because the fact is I think that the intestinal system is so important. But here's what happens. The most complex immune system in your body is in your gut. The most complex nervous system is actually in your gut, right? It's as complex, if not more, than the nervous system in your brain. So it's really important to take care of the gut, because if it's not taken care of, the rest of the body suffers. And by the way, if your gut is under siege or inflamed, it also sends signals to the rest of your body and lets the rest of the body know that it is not doing well. So then the rest of your body gets that inflammation and gets that fatigue and gets all of the symptoms that you talk about. It's very non-specific. So what that means is that it can be just feeling blah or just having discomfort, headaches, backaches, and it can really result from the gut. And one of the things that we've talked about before, if you've joined me on Facebook Live, is the microbiome, right? The microbiome is 30 to 100 trillion bugs that are in your system, and those 100 to the 30 to 100 trillion bugs, guess what they do? They actually preserve this whole equilibrium, right? The good and the bad organisms can really make a huge difference in what happens to the rest of your body. In fact, we now know that if you actually have the right combination of these bacteria and fungi and parasites and viruses, what can happen is that you can really change the paradigm. You can change your health. Now we know that people actually say that, research is showing that your mood, right, whether you're depressed, whether you're anxious, can actually depend on the type of bacteria they have. So taking care of the gut is not just important for you're getting abdominal pain or diarrhea or constipation, but rather it can really make the difference between how you feel, how you love, how you take care of your family. Such important emotions. Key factor: 90% of the serotonin in your body, right? 90% of the serotonin in your body is produced where? In the gut. So if you don't have a good system to take care of the gut, then guess what? You're not producing the right kind of signals to give to your brain. Fatty acids that affect the way you think, right? Also, things like GABA, things, there are chemicals that really is so instrumental in how you actually believe. And if you don't take care of that gut, and what is the gut? Those of you who joined us, we're talking about an important topic. Is your gut making you sick and tired? And discussing why that could be. So if your gut is not being nourished the right way, what I mean by that is, first thing is what? Not giving it the right nutrition, not giving it the stuff it needs to grow. What I mean is giving it crap every single day. And those of you know me say, if you put crap in, guess what happens? You get crap out. So you cannot expect to thrive, expect to succeed, right? You're talking about being the best you can, but the part of your body that really controls that, you are not giving it the fuel. So you got a great car, right? You got a Corvette, but you're putting in kerosene all day, and what do you expect it to happen? It's going to sputter. Even my son will tell you that, right? So your body is the same way. If you're not giving it the right stuff, especially the most important organ in your body, to me, for taking care of everything else, it starts in the gut. It really does. The most complex, right, immune system, most complex nervous system, all these signals, there's a big connection between the brain and the gut. We call it the gut-brain axis. There's a very long nerve called the vagus nerve that actually controls that. So what can we do? We can actually do something very simple, which is put whole foods, exceptional foods, and we've got a whole superfoods cookbook that you can use to make amazing recipes. Simple stuff, less than 30 minutes, I promise. If I can do it, you can do it too. So I promise you that if you look at these recipes, you can really feed the gut. And why is that important? Because not only does it have the most complex nervous system and immune system, but there's 30 to 100 trillion bugs in there. And those bugs can really make a difference, right? Make a difference in how you feel and how you react. We always think that our thoughts are our own, and it's so much more complex than that. When you're making all of the chemicals that affect your mind, affect the way you think in your gut, it's really quite important to say, you know what? I need to make sure that I'm giving it the right stimulus, the right input, so that I can give it the best food and the best support that you can. Let's take some questions here. Hello, everybody's watching. Heather Fogelberg, long time no see. She's watching today. Dal Arroyo, Jocelyn is also watching. Jocelyn Regalario Marquez, hello from the Philippines. Also, if you guys think this is an important topic and you think that your community, the people that you trust and love, would really benefit from it, then I would please ask you to share it with your community. Share it with people that you think would get benefit. Catherine Grace Smith, how are you? And tell me where you're from also, Catherine. She said, yes, I'm having a hard time with my gut. Eating carrots each day, baby carrots. I haven't had a bowel movement in a week. Is it to do with the carrots? I have a lot of back pain and gas. So important thing is that you don't want to just have one of the amazing fruits and vegetables, right? Catherine, you want to pick from the rainbow. So have some cauliflower, have some broccoli, have some cabbage, and drink plenty of water. What's also critical about this is that you can't just put a bunch of fruits and vegetables in there and not give any fluid in your body. Your constipation and having gas is really quite important to make sure that you have a balanced system to get things through. Remember, it's a concert in there when your gut. There's so much going on. So you have one part of the gut squeezing, the other part relaxing, squeezing, relaxing, squeezing, relaxing. Man, if you got the conductor is not working well and they both squeeze at the same time or they both relax at the same time, guess what happens? Things slow down. So you need to give it the right stimulus to be able to move. And that doesn't mean taking a bunch of laxatives that you get from the pharmacy, right? I really implore all of our listeners, all of our viewers to say, guess what? Don't just go to your pharmacy or medicine cabinet. Look at your foods. Let food be thy medicine. Hippocrates said that. You got to really follow that. So really important. Amanda Fernandez, always a pleasure. Simple Reminders, one of the most amazing people I've ever met. And she is in the house. I appreciate it. Gladys Rodriguez, all my folks from California are here. That's awesome. All my folks from Michigan, I appreciate it. That makes sense, my son. As and compresses. Melinda Edwards Vinklarek says, and then Renuka Osman Zahid says, from Toronto. I love Toronto. It's one of our favorite cities to go in the world. So appreciate that. And let's take a look here. Liz Howland, appreciate that. Tell me any questions. Tell me if your gut is actually bothering you, and then I would love to be able to answer some of those questions. And then Jola Bogus says, listen to your talk while studying for my osteopathy exams as well. Let me take a look and see. Heather Dawn says, yes, I do. So Heather's talking about how she also has problems with her gut making her sick. And so she says, causing anxiety and fatigue. This is such an important topic. And thank you, Heather, for bringing this up, that, we think that, if your gut is unhealthy, guess what happens? That the only thing that gets bothered is your gut. So you may get bloated, constipation, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting. But the key is that you can actually get anxiety and fatigue. You can actually get depression. And now we know some of the factors for depression. Some of those chemicals that are released are actually made in your gut. So you've got to really look at, what you can do to feed the gut. And we've talked about Viome before, and I'd love to put up that site. You can check out your microbiome, the 30 to 100 trillion bugs in your system, not just bacteria, folks, but protozoa, viruses, fungi, and how they can shift how you're feeling. I also often talk about the opioid abuse crisis that's in our country. Did most of you know that every 3 weeks, the same number of people die from opioids that have died from 9/11? The same number of people every 3 weeks who've died from 9/11, the same number die from opioids. And I think, why is that important? Because if we change the entire paradigm, flip the script, and do something amazing, change the way we eat, change the way we treat our gut, we can really make a big difference. Because I had a patient that came in to see me, and he was a former drug user and was going to rehab. And I told him, until you change your diet, right? Stop going to fast food, stop going and have processed foods that you don't know what's in it. You don't have a fighting chance, right? You've got to put the right stuff in there. We now know that your behavior, you think that your thoughts are your own, but if the chemicals in your body are fundamentally changed and different, you don't have a fighting chance. That's why it's so important to feed that gut the good stuff. And then Tanya Stitt, it says, I have a strong odor, I believe is coming from my stomach. So Tanya, often people who have bad breath and they feel like they have a strong odor may actually have a condition called gastroesophageal reflux disease. As a gastroenterologist, probably the number one or number two reason why people come and see me in the office is gastroesophageal reflux disease. And people are just floored to know, listen, I don't have any heartburn, but I have bad breath. So I really want you to look at, we have a link here for my GERD book that's coming out, and it really talks about, hey, you know what? We do believe in medicine. I'm a practicing medical doctor in the Western world, so I believe in medicine, but I don't think that's the only way. So we have lots of tips, lots of ways you can really combat acid reflux. And again, I'll tell all of you who are watching, if you feel like this is something important, please share it with your community. I'd love to have as many folks share this so we can reach more folks. I appreciate that. Linda Polizzi Gentile from Australia. Down Under is strong today. Sasso Jacqueline Jakowski is from Detroit, the D. Love it. From and from the D. Donna's from Canada. And then Augustina says, I have chronic constipation and cannot eat anything. Augustina, very, very important problem. Those people who've never been constipated, really don't understand how important this is, right? I mean, if your guts are not working, if your bowels are constantly giving you problems, you don't feel well, your entire body is unwell, you have dis-ease. So important to know that. And so, what I would say is, number one, is that find out what you're putting in your body, and you want to make sure you put whole, amazing foods in there. Pick from the whole gamut, beautiful fruits and vegetables, right? Not just one or two, not just pick from, if you're just like one thing and do that, but really pick from a variety and use the benefits of all of those fruits and vegetables. Drink plenty of water, avoid narcotics, and also you got to move. And the book I have got back here, I always love to refer to it. It's called Ask Dr. Nandi, 5 Steps to Becoming Your Own Health Hero. And I talk about in that 5 steps, right, to 5 pillars to really live your life. And what I'm talking about is, listen, you're constipated, but why do you need 5 steps? Because number one, you have to have a purposeful life. If you live your purpose, we now know that so many diseases are prevented. No, so many diseases are actually don't have a chance to get to you. But second pillar is your nutrition, right? I just been talking about that. Put the good stuff in there. Remember to use the most powerful weapon against disease, which is the fork. You got to use the fork. And then number 3 is movement. You can't sit on the couch every single day and then do what and expect to have good bowel function or have good gut function. We now know that if you have purposeful movement, it actually changes the way your bacteria, your flora, your microbiome works. So it's really important that you do that. Number 4 is what? Having spirituality, having the right mind frame. So you're actually thinking not just about your problems, but thinking outside, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's yoga, whether it's prayer. You're really looking and seeing what you can do. And that'll help with your overall health. That'll change your cortisol level in your body, reduce inflammation. So, and then lastly, your tribe, the people that are with you, right? You gotta be able to have them support you. That's so critical. And when you do all those together, really it's an unbeatable combination. So really great points. Tamika Jones, welcome. Thank you. Andrea Liu from Minneapolis, Minnesota. One of my favorite cities in the world too. Awesome. Augustina Rivol says Argentina. She's from Argentina. Welcome. I was just in Costa Rica just a little while ago, closer to your country than I am now. She said, I have gas and water in my stomach. And then a lot of people feel bloated and uncomfortable. They feel they have gas and water. It's very critical to get the right stuff in your body. What I haven't talked about today is fermented products, right? So whether if you're in Europe or in the Western world, sauerkraut is a great fermented product. If you're in Asia, if you like kimchi, great fermented products. If you like pickles, if you like Greek yogurt, all these things will help you, Augustina, with the gas and water in the stomach. But make sure you get checked out with the medical doctor, make sure nothing is going on that's serious, that you get some testing like an ultrasound, perhaps an endoscopy. But please private message us, follow us, and I'll give you some information so you can get some recommendations from me. I appreciate that. Awesome question. And then let's see. Augustina says, what is the right stuff, right? So what I was talking about is getting the right fruits and vegetables in your body. So pick foods that you like. You want to avoid processed foods. You want to drink plenty of water. I say 64 ounces of water a day. It's really important. And then let me see. Tommy McLean says, husband has severe stomach problems, always in chronic pain, feels like his intestines are being twisted at all times. Doesn't help having diverticulitis. This is very sad. So Tammy, you tell me about where the pain is. If the pain is in the middle, often up here where the ribs meet, that could be a sign of something in the stomach or the esophagus. Even having this gastroesophageal reflux disease, people think, well, you're going to have heartburn, but you may not have heartburn. You may just have pain, and the pain can be pretty excruciating. That's why we're talking about the GERD ebook that I'm coming up with, and not just talking about medicines, right? We always just kind of go, well, let's take a pill and that'll solve everything, but rather let's see if we can do something more. Change your lifestyle, change your diet, change what you're putting in. Amazing recipes, amazing foods that you can have to make things happen. But tell us where his pain is from, where his pain is, and what makes it worse. So really important. So Katie Haas says, how much water an hour when not working out? I think throughout the day, if you can split 64 ounces, that'd be very cool. I think you could split that out during the day. So if you're awake, let's say, 12 to 16 hours, just split that out. If you're doing 64 ounces, I would say 5 to 6 ounces an hour during that time would be fantastic. I tell my patients, if you can get 32 ounces, right, maybe in the morning, early afternoon, and then from mid-afternoon to evening, get the other 32 ounces. You get 64 ounces of water, no problem. It's just about having a habit, right? It's creating a habit that you can really stick to. So very important. Awesome questions. Keep them coming. And Heather Dawn says, Dr. Nandi, hi. I had a gallbladder out and have suffered ever since. Can no longer eat beans, gluten, dairy, soy, MSG, red dye 40, and I get extreme anxiety and panic attacks. I believe I have a bacterial overgrowth. I'm going to see a functional doctor. What test should I ask them to order? And what do I do in the meantime? So really important, Heather. I'm not sure that taking the gallbladder out was the big problem. I think that you may clearly have bacterial overgrowth. What that means is that in the small intestine, if you have a bunch of bacteria, more than you want, the bacteria can eat up the food that's in your small intestine. When it eats up the food, guess what happens? Then it produces gas. It produces products that can give you changes in the way your bowels move, make you feel terrible. So some simple tests that you can do, what we call SIBO testing, and you should ask your functional medicine doctor about that. You also want to make sure you're not intolerant, right, to gluten, and that you're not allergic to dairy, because it seems like there's a lot of food products. So very important. Emily Chudiano says, what's the name of your book? It's right here, and hopefully it's coming out on your screen. It's Ask Dr. Nandi, 5 Steps to Becoming Your Own Health Hero for Longevity, Well-Being, and a Joyful Life. You can get that at Amazon. I love my book. It's my life's work. So if you hopefully enjoy it as well. Michelle Medura says, do probiotics work to heal your gut? If so, which ones do you recommend, and which doses for women? So Michelle, I think the greatest thing is that here's why probiotics help to heal your gut, because when you have the right concentration of the good bugs, 30 to 100 trillion of these suckers in your intestinal tract, right? And so what they do is, if you've got the wrong ones in your body, then what happens is that you could actually get something that causes inflammation. When you have the wrong combination, you can get damage to your gut. Also, what happens is that you can have certain products. For example, some people do not tolerate preservatives. They don't tolerate foods that have been produced. Now, in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we've found the body's been exposed to foods we have never seen, right, in the human race. So now your body has to adapt to that. And if it can't, imagine your body looks at this substance as foreign, right? So it's seeing the stuff coming through. It's never seen it before. It doesn't know that it's just some substance that's been created by a food scientist in some factory. So it attacks it. But because it's attacking something that's not actually a harmful substance, it attacks your intestinal wall. Remember, your intestinal wall is one cell layer thick. Poop on one side, blood on the other, right? So if you inflame that area, inflame that wall, right, that gut then gets not tight like this, but becomes permeable. So you got toxins going through into your bloodstream, and that causes what? Inflammation. Your body attacks it. But not just that area. It sends signals to the rest of your body, and then causes all kinds of problems. Amanda Fernandez says, so my gut health could be in direct correlation to me being diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. Absolutely. What happens is when you don't have the right combination of all the organisms in your gut, and you don't have good gut health, you don't have the signals, right, that are telling your body that this is a state of good health, then guess what happens? You can have things like fatigue, you can have headaches, you can have all kinds of reactions, including increased cortisol. Your diabetes gets worse, your high blood pressure gets worse, you have more chances of getting fatty liver. So lots of things can really result, lots of issues can result if you are doing something that's critical. So you have to make sure that you get the right stuff in there. We've got 2 books we love, which is the Superfoods Cookbook and the Snack Book. And then I know the young lady who's going to see the functional medicine doctor. I'd love for you to be able to take the physician checklist for gut inflammation. You can download that, and we have a list of questions, questions and checklists that you can actually take with you, and then you're prepared for your doctor when you talk about gut inflammation. Very, very important, because when you go to see a doctor and you want to know about gut inflammation, often the doctor may not be familiar with it, or if they are, you don't know what to ask. So this gut inflammation physician checklist is really, I think, very, very useful. We worked hard on it, and I think you'll really benefit from it. If you take a look, I'll put the link up there for you guys, and you can really, I think, benefit from it, especially the young lady who's gonna see their functional medicine doctor tomorrow. Awesome. So Danielle Nunald, how are you? So she said, do you recommend the IgG food panels? If so, how do you feel about the elimination of all the high-scoring foods at one time? So here's the thing, if you're talking about food allergies, right? I think there is a role for food allergies. Absolutely. If you feel like there are certain foods that bother you, I think going to the doctor and getting the panels it could be important, because you can then eliminate some foods. But you make a very important point, and Danielle's pointing out that lots of people are asked to do what? To basically stop everything at the same time, right? If you do that, well, how do you know which foods are really causing you problems? Because these can be non-specific, right? You get all these tests, and basically you're avoiding every food on the planet, so you get really disheartened. So very important to talk about, talk to your doctor. Do I really need this? Because if because you're then eliminating so many foods that you may really do well. So very important question. And if you are going to eliminate foods, do it one at a time, so you at least have an idea, right, of which foods are going to really be bothersome to you, so you don't just quit everything at the same time. Sashi Singh says, hello from Toronto. Hello, Sashi, how are you? Would gut issues affect the liver? Absolutely can. The whole body is connected. So remember that the gut and the liver are intimately related, because the fact is, when the blood supply sometimes can coincide. And remember, if you have inflammation in one part of your body, right, what happens is that other parts of your body can get involved. And why is that? Because the inflammatory cells that are in your body that are protecting it don't just stay in one side, they talk to each other. So the cells in the gut actually talk to the cells in the lungs, the liver, the brain, the heart. So these signals of inflammation and that you're unwell and you have dis-ease actually get transmitted all throughout your body. So it's not just one organ or one system, it's actually the whole deal. So very important question. Yes, they are all connected. Tanya Smith and says, constipated and bloating all the time, sometimes severe pain for no reason. So really important, again, that your gut is an organ that is a muscle, right? So your intestinal tract is a muscle. So things are contracting and relaxing. And if things are not coordinated in the right fashion, then you can get constipated and bloated. So you want to make sure that you give it the right material to be able to first get the right coordination. So number one is getting the right foods. I love fermented foods. I love foods that are whole. Drink plenty of water, 64 ounces of water a day. Please move with purpose. Don't sit on your couch and say, well, I have no idea why my bowels are not moving. If you don't move at all and you sit and you don't have spirituality, why is that important? Because then your fight or flight response takes over, right? And boom, you then have this whole response of your body increasing cortisol, your body increasing substances that are not great for you. And not only will your bowels not move, the rest of your body suffers as well. So very important. Again, I'll ask you, if those of you who are not feel like your community would benefit from this. The people that are your friends on social media, please share this. I think that's really important information that they could benefit from. There's so many millions of people that are suffering from these problems and have no idea that the gut could be a solution. So really quite important to talk about that. Amber Mayfield from Colorado. How are you? She said, I have been recently told to stop eating beans and legumes because they're bad for digestive system. It's absolutely not true. You know, I think beans and legumes could be fantastic, great source of protein. So absolutely, I would eat them up as long as, unless you have some problem where you're intolerant, where you're having reactions. Otherwise, absolutely would not stop eating them. I love them. We eat legumes all the time. I am, of Indian origin, so I eat dal all the time. So it's great stuff. Now, if it bothers you, then don't do it. But in general, absolutely you can have it. So, great question. And then Tony, what will make your blood pressure go up and down? Tony says, "This is hello, Dr. ParthaNandi. What will make your blood pressure go up and down?" First of all, having stress, right? Having stress in your life and not having the peace of mind and understanding will really make your fight or flight system or response go up. So what do I mean by that? So when we used to run from animals or hunt animals, we had this great response system where we fight or run, fight or flight, and that helped us stay alive. And as people pointed out, we always wanted to have lunch and not be lunch. So that fight or flight response was super important, super critical. But what happens is that when you have unrest in your life, when you're stressed, when your boss is yelling at you, when your spouse is yelling at you, or your friend is saying things that are stressful, your body doesn't know the difference. It still thinks that is being chased by the tiger or lion or bear, what have you. And so then it reacts appropriately. It reacts by increasing the stress hormones, which has kept us alive. But if you have that on a constant basis, guess what happens? Inflammation increases in increments every single day, all the time. That's not compatible with a healthy life. And so one of the things that happens, Tony, is that your blood pressure goes up. Top 5 killer in the world. So really important to know. Kayla Morel joined us. And then let's see. Oh, thank you, Amanda. Amanda says, shared with love. Please, all of you, if you can share, that's awesome. So I appreciate that. Appreciate you reminding us, Amanda, and says, and then Cindy Zwick says, what's the best way to lose belly fat without messing up stomach? I think the key is that you want to find foods that you love, right? But foods that are not laden with empty calories. So what do I mean by that, right? We always talk about the empty calories. You don't want to have processed foods, simple sugars, right? And processed sugars. You want to get those beautiful carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables. More plants, less animals. And if you can do that, and don't buy anything in a box or a can, if you can do that, man, you're on your way. And then I talk about, just like in this book, movement with purpose. So what I'm talking about is that you want to be able to let people know that you are. So instead of, the idea of exercise in the Western world is what? Going to a gym, lifting some huge weight, or running an ultra marathon. Yeah, that's what it's about. But really, it's movement with purpose. Walk with your kids, walk with your dog, go to the grocery store, bike to school, whatever it is. When you actually do something useful and move, bam, that helps up here and your body. So it's really, really important to do that. And then you have to have emotional stability. So it's really important when you want to talk about belly fat, when you want to talk about getting the right weight, Cindy, you got to have emotional stability. So you can't be in a toxic relationship where somebody's yelling at you or telling you this or telling you that. You have to be in an environment for your mind and your body that's soothing, right? That's actually helping you. So many of us stick to these relationships that just kill us. So you cannot expect your body to be able to function appropriately, for your body to do the right thing when you cannot give it the signals, the healthy signals it needs. So if you're giving it absolute emotional torture and then feeding it crap, you've got zero chance of your body losing belly fat or any fat or getting the healthy weight that you need. So really critically important. Great question. Let's take a look here. More questions coming up. And then Kevin says, Kevin Williams, love this guy. Awesome gentleman. Check him out. He's got so much great advice. Simple Reminders in the house. Simple Reminders, great tribe. Check them out as well at simplereminders.com. And Kevin Williams says, when changing to a more healthy diet, what's a reasonable time frame to feel a difference? For some people, Kevin, it can happen actually very, very urgently, within a week. For most of us, though, it takes several weeks, so it can't be overnight. The other thing is that, when you're trying to fix the good bacteria in your system, your good flora, right? Your bacteria, your fungus, your viruses. Think about it. You got 30 to 100 trillion of these suckers, and you are changing a few billion. So it's going to take at least, right, 6 to 8 weeks. And then we talked about probiotics, but what about prebiotics? So a lot of you know what that is, but those of you who don't know, prebiotics are foods that help your bacteria and your organisms flourish. So things with lots of fiber, critically important. Love my onions, love my garlic. So prebiotics help that the billions become hundreds of billions and trillions. So you can really try to change the paradigm so you can actually give it the bump that you need, give it the head start that you need. So cool question. Thank you for a comment, rather, Kevin. I appreciate that. And Walter Peck says, I have PTSD and nerve damage, including extreme depression. So, that's such a tough diagnosis, Walter. I'm sorry to hear that, because lots of people who suffer from PTSD and depression and anxiety, it's such a tough thing. But what I'll tell you is that this is not the only thing. You've got to really be able to take care of your gut. Can't go to fast food restaurants, can't eat processed foods, can't eat junk. You have to be able to give your body the best stuff that it has. And by that I mean, give it, if you can, I recommend so many of you that eat organic, right? But then people say, well, doc, it's great. I know you can afford it, but I can't. So for people who say that, I would say this. If you have anything with thin skin, so cherries, strawberries, anything with a thin skin, let's do organic, right? Thicker skin, you got a cantaloupe, right? You got a watermelon, thick skin. If you need to choose, let's hold off and not do organic for that, right? But I would recommend, if you're getting extreme depression, if you're getting mood disorders, you got to take care of your gut. And one of the things is that we have so many pesticides and so many products that are just not great for your body. That's everywhere in the Western world. So I would really, really ask all of you who can afford it to really go organic. And then there's the GMO. So many of you may know what GMO is, but it's genetically modified organisms. So if you have GMOs in your body, it could be damaging you, right? So the GMOs are artificially produced. You take, for example, a seed, right? A seed of a plant. You stick it in to a virus and just multiplies and replicates. Concept is great because you're growing plants and you're growing, fruits and vegetables in places you can't. But we're not doing enough research to find out, hey, what does that do to our body, right? So it's critical, if you can, to have non-GMO products. If you can. Meats, especially if you can get organic, non-GMO. One thing is, if you have USDA organic, if you've got the seal, 95% of the time, you will be non-GMO. 5% of the time, you'll have some ingredients that may not be. So really important, but a great question. Diane Simone. How are you, Diane? She is in central New Jersey. So she has gastroparesis, 86% paralyzed stomach. That's tough. With IBS, intestinal issues, damaged esophagus, I suffer daily with a severely bloated, distorted stomach bulge. Now in full menopause, putting on more weight. Really, I'm sorry to hear this, Diane. Here's the thing Diane Simone is asking. So many of us have this problem, and as doctors, we're limited because what's happening is that this gastroparesis, in English, it means that your stomach's just not moving. Remember, your stomach is a muscle like the rest of your body, the rest of your intestinal tract. When that stomach muscle is not squeezing appropriately, food sits there. You feel bloated. You feel uncomfortable. You feel like you're pregnant. You feel nauseous. People are just miserable. So we used to have some drugs that would help with that. What I'd recommend is, make sure you get a test to prove that you really do have gastroparesis. It's called a gastric emptying scan, and then, because often with the stomach not clearing out the acid, you'll have acid reflux. So again, we'll talk about this, the GERD book, the gastroesophageal reflux disease book that I have, and you can check that out, see what you can use from a dietary standpoint as well as medicines to really flip the script, to change the whole paradigm with this disease and really get on top of it. So very important. But make sure you see doctors that can help you, Diane. Usually a gastroenterologist could be helpful, and to see there's other medicines. Sometimes Botox can help right above what's called the pylorus. Remember, where the stomach goes into the intestine, the pylorus. If you can give Botox to pylorus, that relaxes that area, and then food can go through a little easier. So it may be worthwhile. Make sure you get checked out. This is a miserable diagnosis. So I appreciate you asking us this question. Thank you. And then Jennifer Parker says, what do you think of the Whole30 diet? So Jennifer, in general, I think that, when you're talking about giving fruits and vegetables and giving people foods that they like, I love it. Whenever the word diet comes in, I really think that it's a recipe for failure, because people just cannot sustain this whole idea of staying on a formula and depriving themselves. To me, the word diet is a synonym for failure. So that's why it's really important to know that, hey, you know what? When I see diet, get out. You want to have a whole nutrition plan. Whether you're in the Philippines, whether you're in New York City, whether you're in Argentina, you want to eat food that you like, but whole foods. Not foods that are coming from a factory, not simple sugars, not processed sugars, and that'll be the key. It's not about a formula. It's not about going to and picking out a book and seeing what, certain recipes. It's really about a plan that you can implement that's realistic in your life. That's so critical. So I'm glad you asked that. But thank you very much. Nicole Noling, Moni Noling says, I've had digestive issues for years, even had severe colitis that put me in the hospital for 5 days, back and forth between over acidic and everything going through me and to dry and backed up. I have major fatigue and constant exhaustion. I don't think I can get any nutrition from the food I eat. It's a really important points that Nicole is making. She really has to go and get her gut healed. So, she's had colitis, she's had reflux, she's had every symptom in the book, from just the gastrointestinal tract not being whole. So I would go back and really get very basic, right? Basic foods. Don't want to put a lot of oil. You don't want to put a lot of even spices. I think that get foods that you can use. Again, plant-based food that you can tolerate. I do think adding turmeric to your foods, cumin to your foods, would really be important, because turmeric is a great ancient food, right, that has been shown to help your immune system. So I think it'll help you a lot with inflammation. I think cumin's awesome as well. You can put a little bit of cinnamon in your food as well. I think that'll help tremendously. But make sure you get some testing to know that there's not something severe going on. Your symptoms seem so severe that you could actually have colitis. Have you had an endoscopy before? Have you had an ultrasound? Have you had x-rays? Really important to make sure, even though I do believe that you can change so much with your diet, so much with your lifestyle, you want to make sure you don't have anything else that's really critical. So see your doctor, make sure you get the right testing. I really want to be strong on that, so you don't really not missing something that could be quite serious. And then Katie Haas says, any suggested help for ulcers besides operation? Absolutely, Katie. So, we used to use operations for ulcers before we had a class of medicines called proton pump inhibitors. And what we now do is the proton pump inhibitors, you really have a great solution for getting rid of ulcers. So it's such an important tool now that we have. We hardly ever use operations for an ulcer. Most ulcers are easily treated. Now, as far as foods, you want to have foods that are naturally healing to your gut. So I love having foods like quinoa. I like having foods like blueberries, great antioxidants. I love having cauliflower. I love having broccoli. You want to have foods that naturally help your body, right? You don't want to have a lot of medicines that can cause ulcers, like, for example, ibuprofen, aspirin. You have medicines that are called the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. There's also a bacterial infection called H. pylori. Now, H. pylori is one of the most common infections in the world, right? And so you want to make sure that when you do have an ulcer, you check out if you have a bacteria. That can be done with a biopsy. When you do an endoscopy, you go inside with a little lighted scope, half the size of my little finger, and it goes into your back of your throat, into your esophagus, and into your stomach, and we take small samples, and you can find the shape of the bacteria to see if you have it. If you do, treating that bacteria could really result in you not having the ulcers again and again. So very important. One of my great friends, Stephen Azell, joined. Stephen, awesome to have you, buddy. Was awesome soul and great guy. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. But ulcers clearly can be treated without getting an operation. Please check out our physician checklist for gut inflammation as well, Kathy. We'll put that list up there for you, as well as some information on gastroesophageal reflux disease. I think it will help you. Pat O'Hagan, I'm on antidepressants and anxiety meds. Should I be taking something for my bowels? I have soft bowel movements after I eat each time. So important is that when people go in to see their doctor, right? If they have anxiety or depression, one of the first and simplest steps that doctors do is that here's a medicine, right? So I implore all of you that what can we do besides medications? I don't think medications are inherently bad, right? But you don't want to just jump right to them. So have you practiced meditation? Have you tried yoga? Have you tried spirituality? It's such an important part of your mental health, right? And how are you treating your gut? Maybe you didn't join us in the beginning where we've been talking about gut health, and 90% of the serotonin in your body, right, is created in the gut. And you think that all of it's in the brain, but it interacts with the brain to be able to give you some of the ideas and thoughts that you have and some of the moods. Imagine the stuff that's in your gut could actually be controlling what's in your mind. It's amazing stuff. So I would implore you absolutely, that if you're needed, you can take the antidepressants and anxiety meds. But don't forget your gut and don't forget spirituality. Really important. And Nicole Nolan says, I have high blood pressure as well. Would a GI doctor be the best to help with this? Well, Nicole, very important. High blood pressure has many causes, right? So I would go to your general internist and find out, hey, are there some causes for it? I mean, is there something that I'm doing? How much anxiety do you have in your life? Are there medicines you're taking that could be causing the high blood pressure? Are there things that you're doing in your life that could be making an issue? So I would definitely, for your blood pressure, talk to your general internist. But your gut is important for this, is that if you don't have the right combination of foods in your body, environmental toxins that are being released, and we're talking about not just organic foods or GMO products, but rather you have heavy metals in your system. Where is your food being sourced? Really important to remember that it's not just looking at the label and seeing if it's organic or not, but where is the food coming from? If it's coming from a country that doesn't check any lead, check any heavy metals, then hey, you know what? You could be having problems. So it's really about starting with your general internist to make sure you're not missing anything big. Do you have a tumor that's creating hormones that could be causing your blood pressure to be high? Are your kidneys working well? Some very basic things. You want to make sure that all those things are good. So then, if you're taking medications, what is your weight like? And, how much anxiety do you have? How are your emotions? And are you bombarded with negativity and negative reinforcement everywhere you go? And if you do have that, guess what happens? Man, you have no chance, because your adrenergic system, your on system is always on. And there's no way your blood pressure is going to get better, right? So that's why we say get an emotional environment that's really conducive to your health. It's awesome. Amber's Mayfield says, how do you naturally reset the metabolism? It's a great question. You do that naturally by the things that you eat as well as the activity that you have. So, for example, you want to be able to give your body the foods that it needs that doesn't have processed sugars and lots of artificial stuff. Why is that? Because when you have processed sugars, when you have simple sugars, you have what? increased cortisol, and then you have insulin resistance. You have spiking of insulin. So let me give you an example. You have a sweet tooth, right? So you pick up a candy bar. And then that candy bar does what? Your insulin spikes. Boom! Along with it, your sugar spikes, your cortisol goes up, glucagon goes up. Your entire body is in a pro-inflammatory state. That is a high glycemic food. Now, take cherries. Pretty sweet, beautiful stuff. I love cherries, right? Got a sweet tooth? Get yourself a cherry. Get yourself a strawberry. Lower glycemic index. What does that mean? That means the insulin doesn't spike up. The sugar doesn't spike up. You don't have a pro-inflammatory system. So that's what the difference is. You want to get foods that don't make your system go into overdrive in an inflammatory state. So then on top of that, you start moving with purpose. Don't go to the gym and hate it and say, I hate going to the gym. It's terrible. I can't believe it's so cold. But, and so I'm exaggerating, but the thing is that when you do that, guess what you're doing? You are increasing your cortisol. You are increasing your body's insulin. You're increasing storage of fat, all the stuff you're trying to get rid of, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to do stuff that you enjoy. Man, if you love to walk on the beach, walk on the darn beach, right? If you love walking your dog, walk the dog. Do things that you enjoy. That incorporates movement, purposeful movement, mind and body together, strong. And that is what's going to do it. That's what resets the metabolism, right? You want to be able to do that and get off the darn couch, right? We have engineered movement right out of our lives. So we talk about this all the time in my tribe. What do we do, right? Our typical day, right? You get out of bed, you roll out of bed thinking, I hate it. You roll out of bed, you somehow get your cup of coffee and you get in your car to sit down. Then you drive to work, and what do? You sit in your cubicle, and then what do? You somehow stagger out after that to eat your lunch, sitting down. Then you finish work, you get back in your car, right? And then you go home and eat your TV dinner, sitting down. Then you watch that show of yours and you go back to bed. We have engineered movement right out of our lives. So just moving that body will be so important in changing your metabolism. When you move, when you walk, when you stand, you get those big muscles working. Those big muscles, guess what they do? They reset the metabolism. They increase the calorie intake. So you're strong and you're using all that food that you bought, and so you're not just storing it as fat. So super important question. Marguerite in Italy, where are you from, Marguerite? Tell us. Sometimes I have lots of energy and most of the time I'm tired. Is that related to the gut? It can absolutely be, Marguerite. Think of what you eat. Think of what you do to your gut. What do you do? One of the things we didn't talk about is antibiotics. Now listen, I think antibiotics can be very useful, right? And antibiotics can be critical to your health if you're getting an infection. But if you're getting antibiotics, you're taking antibiotics willy-nilly, guess what that does? Can wipe out your gut system, the gut system of equilibrium. So those 30 to 100 trillion bugs are in the wrong phase. They're actually not protecting you. So one of the things that if that's happening, that can lead to chronic fatigue, that can lead to systemic inflammation. We talk about that. When you're wiping out some of the good bacteria, the favorable bacteria are not there, you can have inflammation when you get the wrong species, the wrong environment. Inflammation can then lead to, remember this, it's a one cell layer thick between blood and poop. So you got holes in there, stuff is going through, causing inflammation. And that inflammation can be deadly for your body. So really, really important to check that out. And then Karen Boldray says, I'm taking medicines for fibromyalgia. It usually causes constipation. I get diarrhea instead. I also notice I get diarrhea when I'm stressed out. What's going on inside of me? Very important question. First of all, fibromyalgia, really important, Karen, to sleep. Only a third of Americans get the sleep that they need. One of the critical factors in fibromyalgia and so many of our diseases is that we just don't sleep. It's the only time in your body, a time when your body is able to heal, right? Like I called sleep brain food, because if you don't sleep, you're not getting the right input to be able to heal and rest. And why is that important for fibromyalgia? Because you're in a constant state of inflammation. Your joints you're fatigued. And so The other problem is that, she's taking pain medications now to fight this fibromyalgia, right? And you're not able to sustain it with natural methods. So then the pain medications do what? Decrease the muscle activity of the colon, leading to constipation. When you get severe constipation that you're not going, guess what happens? Things back up so much that when it comes out, it flies out as diarrhea. So you started with the fundamental problem of the fibromyalgia, and all the medicines that are being used to treat it then do what? Actually give you the side effects. So let's go to the root cause, right? Get your gut in motion, the center of your body. The gut-brain axis is super important. You want to be able to give it the right food, the right stimulus, not just the physical environment, but also the emotional environment. Ashley Day says, awesome stuff. Do you recommend the plant-based diet lifestyle? Absolutely. More plants, less animals. You want to be able to give yourself all the beautiful antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. It's really important. And you can see so many studies show that if you have that as part of your diet, whether it's a Mediterranean diet, whether it's diets from the blue zones, you can see that the plant-based diet is just critical. It gives you the nutrients that you need. And then people go, Doc, I need my protein, man. I'm a growing dude. I can't just sit there and have my plants. I don't get the protein that I need. I tell them, broccoli has protein, by the way. Beans have proteins, legumes have proteins, right? It's just like it's you have to think that plant-based diet can sustain a healthy diet, healthy life. So it can really improve wellness. So I appreciate you asking that. And Amanda Fernandez says, speaking of mental and emotional health, my youngest son was diagnosed with ADHD, ADD combined, PTSD, ODD, and other disorders. A high protein, high fiber diet was recommended. Is that the correct recommendation? So here's the thing, Amanda. I think a balanced diet is really critical for this, right? So you want to have complex carbohydrates. It's so important because you want to be able to give your gut and your son's gut the correct combination of foods so that it can actually flourish. The gut's bacteria, the gut's 30 to 100 trillion bacteria and protozoa and fungi and viruses need that, right? That's what it needs to survive. And so as little processed foods as possible. I don't think just giving more protein and high fiber. High fiber is great because the prebiotics will actually help, but fermented foods will be also important. We have a whole checklist on gut inflammation that we can give you, as well as the Superfoods cookbook that'll really tell you some of the great ways to be able to improve your gut and do it in a way without having to reach for that pharmacy. It's a great question, Amanda. Trudy May says, have you ever heard of if cantaloupes can carry E. coli on the shell? I mean, anything can be infected, but typically cantaloupes will not give you a problem. Just make sure you get it from the right source. And I think you should be fine. Kareem Abdul says, I have severe candidiasis, and all this got started by taking a couple of rounds of Cipro. How can I level candidiasis in your body? So again, giving yourself the healthiest form of probiotics. And I like a product called Align. It's a great product that's in the US, ALIGN. But you can also give yourself the natural probiotics, right? Have yourself a little bit of pickle, sauerkraut. You want to get yourself some kimchi, kombucha tea. You want to give yourself fermented products so you can, boom, you can get yourself what? You can get yourself the foods and the products that you need, right? So you can help reverse that so you don't have to always let the antibiotics kill all the good stuff so you don't have a chance. So very important topic. We talk about that checklist for gut inflammation, very important, Kareem, if you take a look at that. We also have some information about candidiasis as well, so we'll put that link up there for you. It's a great question. Karen Boldry, what's your thought of microscopic colitis? So for those of you who have never heard of this thing, microscopic colitis is when we do this test called a colonoscopy. Many of you have had it, and it's not your favorite type of test, but and you look at the lining, it looks fine. But when you take biopsies, there's inflammation. And that inflammation can actually cause diarrhea. It can cause severe changes in your bowel movements, change your life. So microscopic colitis can be treated easily, right? And then you can take medicines that take care of it, and it may not come back ever, but it may come back periodically. So really important. I think it's also important to make sure you get the right gut microbiome. Check out your profile at Viome. I like Viome because they not only Viome gives you the tools to tell you what type of the 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that you have and organisms called the microbiome, right? The fungi, the viruses, the protozoa, but also tells you what you can do to fix the problem, right? How you can reverse that whole script. Make sure that what's happening is that you're getting the right stuff. So maybe kale ain't good for you. Maybe cauliflower is not the right choice for you. Isn't that cool to customize your intestinal microbiome so that you're getting the custom treatment that you need, so you don't get one treatment fits all? So really critically important. I'll put that link up there for you as well. Super important question. Karen McKelvey Ortega, what causes polyps and how can you prevent them? I just took I think 11 polyps out of a patient today. Polyps are small little growths in the colon, and what I tell people is that what will really help with polyps is that have, again, high fiber fruits and vegetables, less red meat, right? Because we think that could increase your risk of colon polyps and colon cancer. Also, if you're over the age of 50, critically important that you get a colonoscopy, which is a test to look inside the colon to make sure that there are no growths. And if you have a good preparation, man, you can prevent this disease. Also, if you're an African American, age 45, not 50, to get screened. If everything is good and you don't have any problems, then you can wait 10 years. So not a bad deal. If you have polyps, you may have to do it sooner than that based on what type of polyp it is. Now, if you have a family member that's a first-degree relative with colon cancer, that's a mother, father, brother, sister, then you may have to do the colonoscopy earlier, often at age 40 or 10 years before whoever had the colonoscopy. So let's say you have a brother or sister at colon cancer at age 32, then you should have your colonoscopy at age 22. So super important question. Colon cancer, number two or three cancer killer in the country, totally preventable. So awesome. Thank you for that question. Leslie Bepp Hartsong, are canned vegetables and fruits okay to eat? Absolutely, you can. Just look at what they put in it. If they put a bunch of crap you can't pronounce, throw it away. Don't take it. But if they're all they have is a product, meaning that all they have is a vegetable or the fruit, and that's it, cool with that. And frozen vegetables often can be a great deal, right? You can actually get some very good frozen vegetables, even organic, that are flash frozen for a better price. So you can get a deal in that. So I think absolutely. Great question. Sherry Newton Force, when I'm eating once in a while, my food won't go down, not even water. Could this be esophageal muscle spasms? It goes down after a while. Very important question, Sherry. You should see a doctor to make sure there's not a blockage in your esophagus. So one of the things that can happen is that if there's a narrowing or a stricture, that can cause your food to get stuck. So really important. Gastroesophageal reflux disease can be a cause of that. So what happens is acid comes up from the stomach into the esophagus, can cause spasm of the esophagus, or over time that inflammation can actually cause narrowing of the esophagus. So that can be treated with an endoscopy. So make sure you get a scope test where an endoscopy, take a scope half the size of my little finger while you're asleep. It goes inside your mouth in through the esophagus. We can find out what's going on. There's also a small chance of serious things like possibly a precancerous lesion or a cancerous lesion. So it's really important. I'll put that link up for my GERD book. Really gives you great tools, not just medicine, but also diet and lifestyle that can really change the whole paradigm. So very, very, very important to talk about that you should get assessed. That's a very important question. Heather Dawn says, can gut health impact female hormone levels? Absolutely. When your body is in dis-ease, right, when your gut health is not appropriate, there's inflammation, then that signal goes to the rest of your body. When that signal goes to the rest of your body and there's inflammation, your hormone levels from every single organ that produces hormones is off, right? You can't have inflammation and signals that there's unrest and expect your body to produce the hormones in the right proportion, whether it's thyroid hormone, whether it's the hormones from the adrenal gland, the hormones from any part of your body, including your female hormones, will be off. That's why people who have incredible stress, right, may not have the right female hormone level. So please Make sure you're eating the right things. No processed foods. Please eat whole foods. Don't have processed and simple sugars as well. Phoebe Garrett says, I have hypothyroidism and I'm taking medications. I've been having diarrhea for 2 weeks. I've also developed a rash in my torso. I'm being tested for intestinal virus. I've been taking probiotics and eat more fruits and salads. Awesome. I bloat, have gas, and I'm miserable. If I eat anything other than fruits and salads, I'm going broke with all the testing. I can't afford any insurance. Any ideas? First of all, you want to make sure, Phoebe, that you're not getting too much of your thyroid medications, because that by itself will do what? Speed up your system. So you want to make sure that the medicine you're taking for your thyroid is not causing you more problems. So number one. Number two is absolutely you could have an infection, but you want to make sure you check that out. You could also have bacterial overgrowth, and that's a simple test. I know you've been getting a lot of testing, but a SIBO test, SIBO, could be critical for you to be able to see what's going on. Again, we have plenty of resources, including the Superfoods Cookbook, that can give you some great foods that may be more affordable that you can help. But please private message us. We can try to help you even more. Leslie Pereira says, I suffer from bloating, gas, and indigestion, especially after I've had a meal. Very uncomfortable and a pain and breathlessness while moving around. I tell you, Leslie, just look at our book on GERD. I think it really could be important, especially with the indigestion and gas after eating. Tell us also how long after eating that this happens. If it's within minutes or several minutes, then it could be your esophagus, your stomach. But if it's hours, it may be lower down. And also, you're diabetic. Do you have any other medical problems? Really important. But you've got to check out what's been going on. It could be GERD, and maybe some tips we could give you with our GERD book to help you feel better. But thank you for your question. My final question is Pinky Desai. I'm going to answer here. My son's half colon was removed at age 5 months, and currently it's currently 2.9, diagnosed with ASD, totally on homemade GFCF sugar and animal-free food, but still have gut issues. How could I help him with microbiomes? Again, you want to be able to continue to do what you're doing, and if you can tolerate fermented foods, I think that would be very helpful. And it takes time, though. You want to be able to, you want to be able to give them the fermented foods they can tolerate. And remember, if there's trillions of bugs in your system, it takes so long sometimes to be able to replenish them. So prebiotics as well. So we've got some tips for you, some Superfoods Cookbook as well as snack books, and I think we have a whole article on your gut organisms and your microbiome. So please check that out. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging with us for the last hour. Really appreciate all your amazing questions. So really so treasure all of you being with us. And I know in several parts of the world, the country, it's pretty late. So thanks for staying with us. And for those parts of the world where it's morning or you're in the middle of the day, enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, make healthy living a part of every day. We'll be back next Wednesday again at 10:30 Eastern. Namaste. Thank you for joining us. So appreciate it. I will see you next time.